There's a moment that might feel familiar. You replay a conversation in your head, not once, but over and over. You remember it clearly, the tone, the expression on their face, even where you were standing. But they tell you, that never happened. It's not just a different memory. They're so certain that you start to wonder if you're the one who got it wrong. Lately, there's a word for moments like that: gaslighting. It's spread fast, maybe too fast, until it gets used for almost anything, from an ordinary disagreement to something far more systematic. But underneath the word, the one that gets misused so often, there's a mechanism that philosophy understood long before this term existed. The question isn't who's the villain. The question is, who gets to decide what actually happened? And what happens when you quietly hand that right to someone else? The pattern usually doesn't start dramatically. That's exactly why it works. It begins small, denial over some minor detail that seems trivial. Over time, that denial expands to bigger events, followed by a reaction that makes you feel like you're overreacting, simply for questioning it. Then the redirect, from what actually happened to how you brought it up, to whether you're too sensitive. What's happening isn't a disagreement. It's the slow erosion of your trust in your own memory. Thomas Hobbes, writing in the 17th century, described a world without shared authority, a world where no single party holds a higher power to decide who's right. In that condition, he wrote, I quote, "No one man's reason, nor the reason of any one number of men, makes the certainty." End quote. No single person's reasoning automatically becomes absolute truth. That's what Hobbes argued. But in personal relationships, there's often no witness, no recording, no outside referee. What's left is only one person's word against another's. And in that empty space, someone can quietly position themselves as the sole judge of reality. Not because they're right, but because no one is there to challenge them. Epictetus was born a slave in the Roman Empire. For years, his body wasn't his own. What he did, where he went, all decided by someone else. But Epictetus drew one distinction that became the foundation of everything he taught. Some things can be taken from you, and some things cannot. Your body, your property, your reputation, all of it can be seized. But your own judgment, the way you interpret what happens to you, that, he said, is the one territory that truly belongs to you, if you choose to defend it. In the Enchiridion, he wrote something sharp about exactly this. I quote, "If a person gave your body to any stranger he met on his way, you would certainly be angry. And do you feel no shame in handing over your own mind to be confused and mystified by anyone who happens to verbally attack you?" End quote. You'd be furious if your body were handed to a stranger. So why is it so easy to hand over your own mind, letting it be confused by anyone determined enough to attack you verbally? Epictetus could never win back his physical freedom any faster than he was allowed to. But he refused to surrender one thing: his right to judge, for himself, what was real. The Stoic principle relevant here is called Amor Fati, loving what actually happened, exactly as it happened, not the polished version someone else offers you. This isn't about resignation. It's about refusing to hand over the definition of reality to anyone else, including the person most determined to convince you that your reality is wrong. Modern research offers an explanation for why this tactic can be so effective. Willis Klein and colleagues, published in Personality and Social Psychology Review in 2025, studied the cognitive mechanisms behind gaslighting. Their finding, the people closest to us, partners, family, close friends, hold what they call epistemic leverage. That closeness itself gives them the power to shape, even correct, how we see reality. Because naturally, We rely on people close to us to verify what we experience. This isn't a personal weakness. It's a normal social cognitive mechanism, exploited in an abnormal situation. Amor Fati, applied here, means this: you can still love that person, but you're not obligated to surrender your right to judge what actually happened, not even to the person closest to you. Maybe it happens at work. A manager who denies a promise made in a meeting, then makes you look unprofessional for misunderstanding. Maybe it's in a relationship, a partner who tells you you're too sensitive every time you name something that hurt you. Maybe it's in a family, a parent who denies a childhood memory you remember clearly, because admitting it means admitting fault. These patterns aren't always fully intentional, but the effect is the same. Slowly, you learn not to trust your own perception until someone else validates it first. There are a few things that can help, not as a fixed prescription, but as a direction. Writing down facts objectively, not to prove who's right, but to have an anchor that doesn't depend on memory that keeps getting questioned. Keeping sources of validation outside that one relationship, friends, other family, anyone who can serve as a disinterested mirror of reality. And maybe the hardest part, stepping back from trying to win the argument over who's right and starting to ask whether that argument itself is the thing worth questioning. Albert Camus wrote about a world that often refuses to offer clear answers to what we're searching for. But for him, that wasn't a reason to stop living with lucidity, with eyes fully open to what's real, even when the world around you offers a more comfortable version instead. This isn't about defeating them. This isn't about becoming cold or manipulative yourself. It is about refusing to let another person's absence of conscience become the architect of your inner peace. And one important note: not every misunderstanding is gaslighting. Sometimes people genuinely remember things differently, without any harmful intent. Telling apart a repeated, deliberate pattern from an honest lapse in memory, that itself requires the same clarity we've been talking about. Instead, the world doesn't always provide a witness, a recording, or the validation we need to feel certain about what we've experienced. But maybe, as Camus suggested, that isn't a reason to stop trusting what's real. The question isn't whether someone else will acknowledge your reality. The question is, will you keep holding on to it, even if no one else does but you? Thank you for watching.